Welcome back to Cooking with Grandmommy. It's a beautiful summer day, and today is the day. Many people have been asking for chicken and dumplings. It's my family's, their top two favorites, chicken and dumplings or Alfredo pasta. And we did the Alfredo for our very first, so today is chicken and dumplings. And I tell you, this was a challenge because this is one of those meals where I don't measure anything. I know, I always talk about how my mom never measured and it was hard to get her recipes. So I have measured out so I can show you how to make chicken and dumplings. So the first thing you want to do, and you can use a whole chicken or you can use chicken parts. I like using like the leg and thigh pieces. You want to use chicken that has skin on it because your broth is going to give your dumplings a whole lot of flavor. So that's why I use that kind of chicken, and we put it in the crock pot. That's the easy way for me to do it. You can stew it in a pot on the stove. You can use a pressure cooker. I like the crock pot. If you want to use broth from the store, you can do that, but I would suggest adding a stick of butter to, you know, the carton about so big. Add butter to it because you want some fat in your broth. That's what makes your dumplings really taste good. So I have already cooked my chickens, and then I take them off the bone, and this is the chicken and the skin. The skin helps keep it moist, and I separate mine between dark and white because some people like white and some like dark. Some people crumble this up and put it in their dumplings, so you can go at it either way. But anyway, my chicken is ready, and when I'm ready to serve the meal, I just throw this in the oven and keep it warm for a few minutes until we're ready to eat. So I'll move the chicken out of our way, and now we're going to talk about making dumplings. Now here's my pot of broth, and you can see that it's nice. It's got a layer of fat on the top. It's kind of yellow brown. And in this pot I had broth that I poured off my chicken, and I had about 4 cups of broth, and then I added 5 cups of water. So there's 9 cups of liquid in this pot. And you always can add some water to your broth. You don't have to use it full strength. So this pot has 9 cups of liquid in it. Now, for the biscuit dough, basically your dumplings are biscuit dough. I'm going to show you how I make mine. You can use Bisquick or some kind of baking mix. There are different ways to make it, but I'm going to show you the way I make mine. To stir up the biscuit dough, I'm going to turn my pot of broth on high because I want it to get up to just about boiling. I want it to get hot. So while I'm doing this, that pot is going to be heating up. So for this size of recipe, which is 9 cups of liquid, kind of half and half broth and water, I am going to use 3 cups of flour. Now, White Lily is my favorite for biscuits and cornbread, any kind of southern cooking. And you'll notice this says self-rising. That means it's got the baking soda and the salt in it already, the baking powder. So 3 cups of this flour. And White Lily is different because it's really very light, and it's sifted, ground a little bit finer than regular flour. But you could use any kind as long as it's self-rising, but White Lily, according to my mother and according to me, makes the best biscuits and cornbread and of course dumplings. So 3 cups of flour, and then I am going to put in some lard. You can use Crisco or shortening, but I like lard. It's 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons for this much flour. Scrape all that in. Get it all out of there. All right. And buttermilk. Shake it up good. So it's about 1 3/4 cups. You can add to a little bit as you go. You'll see as I stir this up kind of the consistency that you want the dough to be. Now at this point we could make biscuits or we could make dumplings. So I stir mine up with my hand. And I just squish it all together. See, when you're the cook, you get to play in your food. All right, that's not quite enough buttermilk for me. I'm going to pour in a little more. Just keep squishing it all together so that the lard and the buttermilk and the flour are mixed up well. Need a little bit more buttermilk in here. And I love the way it smells. Buttermilk and flour and lard. Now, if you were going to use this for biscuits, the way we do it is we pinch off some dough and we roll it around in our hands. You could also pour this out and roll it and use a biscuit cutter, but we get a gob of dough and we roll it up in our hands and make a biscuit out of it. That's the old-timey way. All right, I'm going to get some of this dough off my fingers. I'll be right back. All right, now I'm going to flour up my counter here. This part of making the dumplings, when you are dropping them in the pan, it used to be, well, it was a challenge and we turned it into some fun, but I used to have my stove here and the counter there, and we would take turns running over to drop them in. Now that I have this beautiful counter, I can scoop them up and dump them right in the pot. So it's certainly easier than it used to be, but it was always fun. The girls, the granddaughters, my daughter, my daughter-in-law, we would all take turns. We'd get our dumplings and go dump them in. But now I don't have to do it that way. So I've got some flour here, and I just want to get a little flour on it so I can work with it, so it's not so sticky on my hands. Pot's starting to come to life over here. Now I just want to work up a little bit of flour on it, just so it's not sticky. And this is where we'd start pulling off biscuits. Let me just show you. One day we'll do a little practice on biscuits. So you just get your dough in your hand, roll it around, and look, you got a beautiful little biscuit right there. But now we're going to put it back in the dumpling dough. Okay, I'm going to just press it together here. And get my rolling pin out. A little bit sticky right there. It's really a challenge to measure something when you've made it so many times without that. But I think I've got it down to a good amount of everything. Feels like I am all stuck over here. Get a little flour under that. There we go. You don't want them to be too thick. There's so many ways that people make dumplings. Some people call them sliders, some noodles, and every group, depending on your family ancestry or region where they lived, have just a little bit of a different twist on it. All right, I'm using my pizza cutter, and I'm going to cut these up into strips and into squares. See, my pot's starting to steam a little bit over there. It's getting ready to start boiling. Yep. Just about the right amount of timing for that pot to boil. Okay, here we go. Gonna let it come up just a little bit hotter. Smelling good. By the way, I added a teaspoon of salt to my broth. The chicken was salted when I put it into the crock pot. Just a good heavy salting of kosher salt. Alright, so that water is, or the broth and the water are bubbling, and here we go. I'm just scooping them up, dropping them in. And once your pot gets a little bit fuller, you'll have to use your fork and just to push aside an opening to drop them in. You don't want to stir it. This is pretty tender dough, and you don't want them to just all fall apart, and then you would have a pot full of just liquid. So just gently move them around, make a space to get more in. Give them a little push so they go under into the broth. Go. Almost got them all here. There we go. And a little push. One more scoop. Looks like we've got them all here. Alright, now that I have all the dumplings in the pan, I am turning the burner completely off. I'm going to make sure that they've all been into the broth. And now I'm going to put the lid right on the pot. The burner is turned off, and I'm going to time that for 10 minutes. Hey Siri, set the timer for 10 minutes.
Your timer is set for 10 minutes.
Alright, 10 minutes we'll have perfect dumplings. Alright, 10 minutes is up. I'm going to take the lid off. First thing I'm going to do, you'll notice that your dumplings will kind of float to the top as they cook, and so I'm just going to take this spoon and press them down under the broth. Oh, they're looking good and smelling wonderful. There we are. Perfect. Just press down and let them get down into the broth and break up a little. There, so there's what the whole pot looks like. And let's just take up a couple and you can see. There we go. Chicken and dumplings. Now at this point, if your family likes the chicken in it, just tear up your chicken and throw it in the pot. Or you can serve the dumplings and put the chicken on the side, and everybody can have it their own way, whether they want to mix it in with the dumplings or keep it on the side. So, chicken and dumplings, you know, it always reminds me of my mom. It reminds me of growing up. It was always one of my favorite meals. And it's a way that you could stretch the food that you had. You know, a lot of our best recipes are like that. How can we make this go farther? So using biscuit dough to make dumplings is one of the southern ways of stretching food out. So thanks for joining me. I hope that you are enjoying the recipes, and I hope that you're trying some of them. You know, give me some feedback and some comments. If you like something, or maybe you tried it and you need a little extra instruction, let me know. I'll be happy to answer back and give you some advice on how to do it. Remember, at Grandmommy's house, food is all about love, and everybody's welcome. See you next time.